Welcome to Groups This Week. As a church, we exist to help all people become fully devoted followers of Jesus. We believe doing life together is a crucial part of that journey. During this time, we're going to unpack and dig deeper into the sermon we heard this past week. Let's dive in as we continue to grow in our faith, knowledge, and love of Jesus together.
Well, Ryan, I'm glad to be here for our video this morning. As I've mentioned before, I like being on this side where I get to ask the questions.
It's different being on this side.
Yeah. So. How do you feel over there? Is that okay?
Feeling different, but feeling good.
Yeah. So as we continue through our series on the Psalms of Ascent, looking at the Psalms that the people of Israel would sing on their way to Jerusalem to gather in corporate worship. This week we're looking at Psalm 128.
That's right.
And I thought just before I ask you a few questions, I would read the text for us.
Sure.
So Psalm 128 out of the ESV. Blessed is everyone who fears the Lord, who walks in his ways. You shall eat the fruit of the labor of your hands. You shall be blessed, and it shall be well with you. Your wife will be like a fruitful vine within your house. Your children will be like olive shoots around your table. Behold, thus shall the man be blessed who fears the Lord. The Lord bless you from Zion. May you see the prosperity of Jerusalem all the days of your life. May you see your children's children. Peace be upon Israel. All right. Well, right off the bat, there's a phrase we hear in there twice. It seems like it's kind of almost used as bookends at the beginning, at the end, at the beginning of verse 1, and then at the end of verse 4. This idea of the fear of the Lord and the blessing that comes from the fear of the Lord. My guess is that there's some people that phrase is difficult to kind of understand. So can you explain what fear of the Lord means and what does that mean for us actively? Like how do we do that?
Yeah, great question. Maybe you've heard it said that really fear of the Lord is like this reverence or this awe that we have before God, like an appreciation and this wonder of how great and good and holy and worthy of our worship He is, right? So it's not that we should be scared of Him as though He's our enemy. I suppose if you're not in Christ, potentially you could fear God in that way, but I think this is a knowledge, an intimate knowledge of this is who our God is. We know Him to be holy, we know Him to be just, we know Him to be good, and He's personable, right? Like this God, as we fast forward to the New Testament, has revealed Himself in the person of Jesus, and so there's this deep assurance that like God is for us, He loves us, and yet He's so other than us. While He's so close. And so there's this reverence that we have towards God. And that has implications for us, right? It means that He is God, He has authority, and we do not. And so we want to live in submission to Him.
Okay.
Yeah. What do you think, Brad? Any other thoughts there?
Yeah, no, don't do that. I'm on this side.
Okay.
No, that's good. But so I guess this idea of worship and reverence for. So what would you say? I guess especially in the West, what are some of the things that get in the way of that? Yeah,
well, I think what like a big one is fear of man. And this is something from personal experience. It's something that I really struggle with, right? But like so long as we are fearing people and living for their approval or their praise, we're not going to live to please God, because at some point you're going to disobey Him because you're looking for the approval of others. Rather than the approval of God, right? And people are fallible and God is holy. And so, if we're just seeking to gain the approval of people, we're going to compromise. We're going to, people please, all of this. And so I think like that's a big one is do we have, a deep fear of God such that we're willing to disappoint people or be misunderstood. But I think that this can really be something that, we can struggle with is fear of man. That can get in the way of our fear of God and then ultimately our obedience to Him. I think another one as well would just be preoccupation with self. Just like the fixation on on us, right? Like we live in a part of the world where it's so individualistic, right? Like we literally have the iPhone. Screens are just everywhere, and it just it teaches us to be focused on self, right? We have advertisements that are like tailored to our preferences, and so I think then we can just be so concerned with ourselves that we're not even thinking about an external authority or this good God. And so if we're just gazing inward, then how are we to fear God, who is outside of us and yet who deeply loves us at the same time?
Yeah, and I think maybe what's connected with that is this idea of things being tailored towards ourselves is also the idea of waiting on the Lord. I don't wait.
Yeah.
Everything is immediate, and we're in such a fast food kind of idea of the world. Give it to me now, give me as much as I want, and don't stop until I tell you to stop. And so to wait on the Lord and to fear the Lord in that way, it seems so foreign to us. If we don't see immediate results, then our idea of trust probably wanes.
Yeah,
pretty
instant
quick.
gratification. Doesn't always square with waiting on the Lord.
Oh no, because we're told, it's along the lines of what you're saying. Like we're told all the time. Well, you deserve this. Every car ad, everything says, no, you deserve this, and this is good for you, and this is going to give you all the things that you're looking for, right? So that's good. That's good. So how then? Because the psalm seems to attach blessing. To this fear of the Lord. So how is being blessed connected to this idea of fear of the Lord?
I think what's going on here is when it says blesses everyone who fears the Lord, who walks in his ways, and then it goes into talking about all these blessings. It's saying that, like, man, when we live in this fear of God, or this fear of the Lord, and then obey him, like as we live in sync with the kingdom of God, like that's going to produce fruit in our lives, and we're going to see the implications of that in our relationships, in the things that we do, in our work. Like as we live as Jesus did, and in step with the Spirit, like we're going to see the benefits that overflow from that. That doesn't mean that we'll never meet trials or difficulties, right? Like as we follow Jesus, we're actually guaranteed that we're going to meet trials.
It's a promise.
Of course.
It's a promise.
But I think it's like the natural kind of overflow of loving people and seeking to honor God, be generous with our resources, our time, to honor people, to love God. I think the natural overflow of that is that like there's blessing attached to that, and that generally people respond well when they're loved by us. And so I think it's like the natural consequences of our obedience to God is in general. It'll go well for you in relationships, and things like that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I wonder too, like when fear of the Lord is the center, when for us we would say if Christ is the center, everything else finds its right place, and that's the only way it finds its right place. So as we talk about labor of our hands, our work, our family, wife and children, those things find their right place when they're not the center. They find their place when Christ is the center.
Absolutely.
And I think that idea of blessing is not when we're the center. It's when everything is finding its right place because our fear of the Lord has placed him at the center.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to note that like these specific examples that are named in Psalm 128, like your wife will be like a fruitful vine, like you'll have children as olive shoots. Like these are stereotypical things that we're seen as like blessing.
I didn't know whether you wanted to go after
that. Just kind of another throw-in comment. Like these were typical signs of God's blessing. Right. But of course, these are just examples, right? Like there are unmarried people. There are, and I think like it's setting up the man here as kind of the kind of like an ideal God-fearer. And so it's just like using him as like a kind of an archetype of someone who fears the Lord, right? But I think, hey, regardless of who we are, if we worship the Lord, if we fear him, whether you're single, whether you're married, whether you're young or old, like blessing will follow obedience, whether that blessing is in this life or in the life to come.
Great. Well, thanks, Ryan. Thanks for sharing that with us. And guys, hope you have a great, blessed conversation in your groups.
We hope you enjoyed the teaching today. If you're wanting to follow along with our community group's discussion guide with your group, you can head to cachurch.ca/media where you can find the discussion guide. Not only are there questions there related to the sermon, but there's also prayer prompts that relate to the passage or the topic that we were talking about, and practices that you can, on an individual level or a group level, begin integrating into your life to not only bring this knowledge into your mind, but to begin living it out.